The jar of life. Once upon a time, a wise old teacher named Miss Lara invited her students to her beautiful garden for a special lesson. Miss Lara was known for her thought-provoking stories and creative way of teaching. That day, she carried a large glass jar, along with 3 baskets filled with rocks, pebbles, and sand. As the children gathered under the shade of a grand oak tree, they buzzed with curiosity. The soft hum of bees and the sweet scent of blooming flowers filled the air. Today, my young friends, we will talk about time and what truly matters in life. She placed the glass jar on a wooden table in front of them. The sunlight sparkled on its surface, capturing the children's attention. "What do you think this jar is for?" she asked. One child raised her hand eagerly. "To store something?" "Exactly. But what we store in it and the order we do it in matters greatly. Let me show you." She picked up the first basket, filled with large, smooth rocks. These rocks represent the most important things in your life: your family, your health, your education, and your dreams. These are the things that, if everything else were lost, would still matter. With great care, she began placing the rocks into the jar, one by one. The students watched intently as the jar began to fill. Soon, it looked almost full. Miss Lara paused, letting the children take in the sight. "Now let's add the next layer," she said, reaching for the second basket filled with pebbles. These pebbles represent the things that are important but not as vital: your hobbies, friendships, and activities that bring you joy. She poured the pebbles into the jar, shaking it gently so they settled between the rocks. Finally, picking up the third basket filled with fine golden sand. This sand represents the small, unimportant things, the distractions and trivial tasks that can fill your day if you let them. As she poured the sand into the jar, it trickled down, filling every tiny crevice between the rocks and pebbles. The jar now appeared completely full. Miss Lara stepped back and looked at her students. "Now imagine," she said, "if we had started with the sand." She emptied the jar and started over. This time, she poured the sand in first. It piled up quickly, taking most of the space in the jar. Next, she tried to add the pebbles, but they couldn't all fit. Finally, when she attempted to place the rocks, there was no room left. The children's eyes widened in realization. "You see," Ms. Anya said, "if you spend all your time on the small, unimportant things, you won't have room for what truly matters. But if you focus on the big, important things first, there will always be space for the rest." One of the students, a boy named Jaden, raised his hand. "So you're saying we should always focus on the big things, like family and dreams?" "Exactly, Jaden," Ms. Lara replied. "Life is like this jar. Time is limited, and you have to be thoughtful about how you use it. By prioritizing the important things, you can make the most of the time you have." Another student, Lena, spoke up. "But what about the fun things, like hobbies? Aren't they important too?" Miss Lara nodded. "They are, Lena. That's what the pebbles represent. There's room for fun, hobbies, and friendships, but only after you've made space for the rocks. And the sand, well, it's fine in small amounts. Just don't let it take over your jar." The students nodded, deep in thought. For a moment, the garden was quiet, except for the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. Miss Lara smiled. "Now, I want you all to think about your own jars. What are your rocks? What are your pebbles? And what sand could you let go of to make more room for what matters?" The children began to share their thoughts. Jaden said he wanted to spend more time with his family. Lena realized she had been spending too much time on her tablet and wanted to focus more on her art. One by one, each child found their own rocks, pebbles, and sand. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Miss Lara stood up and looked at her students. "Remember this lesson, my dear ones. Time is a gift. Use it wisely, and your jar will always be full of what truly matters." From that day on, the children approached their days with a new perspective, treasuring their time and filling their jars with intention. And so the lesson of the jar lived on, reminding them to focus on what truly matters in life. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below.